Well, hello, friends. Amy and I are back here for art and music. Um, this week, I was looking at just the passage where God is instructing Moses on how to build the tabernacle, and as they go into that project, they get these artisans and these craft people to come, the best ones they have, to actually then produce the things that God has instructed them to do. And it just caused me to think that art and beauty, and to some degree music, has always been a part of our experience with God. God incorporated into the way he wanted to be perceived, and he wanted people to receive, when you think about that tabernacle, where he was going to dwell. And so we just want to simply, we're kind of opening up Pandora's box in that art and music is huge. There's so many forms of art. There's so many types of music. So we want to kind of just narrow in a little bit today on what does it mean for families to include some art and music in the things that they're doing at home. So when you think of that, what do you think, Amy?
Um, yeah, you're right. As we've been talking, we realize this is a huge topic and we could talk about it for a very long time. So we're intentionally going to keep this very simple and very focused, right? But I think one of the really helpful distinctions you made, Debbie, in our conversation is that idea of participant and spectator. I think art and music invite our participation, and they invite our participation whether we are doing the making and the creating, and in that sense we're playing the role of the artist, or whether we are observing. I think one of the things I have found deeply meaningful about music and art is that they invite, when we observe, it's almost like they pull us in, and we may cry over a piece of music, or we may feel moved over a piece of art that we're looking at. I think they invite our participation beyond just spectator. And so I think that's really what we're asking people to do with us this week, is put yourself in that participant role. And what does it mean to pull art and music into your homes and view yourselves as participants in it? How does that, I think just how does that work as a family? How does that impact the way in which you're communing with God? And we've talked about, like, how does that bring you into God's presence, and how does it also help you respond to God's presence? And that's a really big one. Debbie, I know that you've really loved the idea of art and music as that response piece. What does that mean when we talk about that?
Yeah, I think children are a great illustration of this. One of my grandsons is always finding ways he can respond to things through art, in creating something. And I think for kids, especially sometimes, and the younger they are, maybe this is true too, they don't always have words for their response.
Right.
So you talked about in school, a lot of teachers know that writing or responding to something, creating something in the first years of through elementary school, is that you can use words or you can use pictures. So you can draw or you can use words. And there's something about that invites kids, and I think adults too, we may have lost some of this capacity the older we get, but it's a really valid thing to respond with a picture, respond with an image, respond with a drawing or colors or singing a song or humming, that invites us into this experiential response that doesn't have to have words.
Right. And that's I think one of the things that's been deeply meaningful for me, both with art and music at different times, is that in a lot of ways it enables us to respond when we don't have the words. It's almost like it enables us to access some sort of response when our brains just cannot form the words. We can't journal about it, we can't talk about it. And I think it also does that on that first part of the ushering us into the presence of God. I know there have been many times where I have felt sort of a roadblock in my spiritual growth or in my access to God even, and different times of pain or different periods in my life, and worship music or baking. For me, baking and cooking is like my art form. I like to create in the kitchen. But both those would suddenly bring me into the presence of God in a way that I couldn't access in a intellectual way, and in a lot of ways in a way I didn't expect. But I think there's a reason why we start with music in our churches, right? Not a lot of them, most of them. We start with music because it does bring us into the presence of God in a way that just our words can't or doesn't. And so I think that's what we're asking people to do this week. It's very, very simple. We've given you some really simple, easy to implement exercises because we know that for a lot of people you have limited supplies at home or you might have not great access to go and get different supplies. So we want you to use what you have to find opportunities to create and to make, and also to participate by observing. And so, go online, find beautiful pictures, listen to beautiful music, search your house for those books that are filled with pictures that you forgot about, and just find ways to observe, find ways to create and make, and see what kind of difference that makes in your ability to both access God and to respond to his word. And that's kind of it. That's our
That is. Yeah. And I think that paying attention, what do you feel? So yeah, we're pretty habituated in words in many of our church settings, and God is so much bigger than our words. And if we can just stop and enter in. So I guess the last thing would be like, you don't have to put words to it after you do it.
No. And actually we would encourage you to do your best not to put words to it.
Yeah.
And to force your kids to put words to it.
Yes. So maybe you just hang it on the refrigerator and just look at it for the rest of the week. Yeah. So it gives you a continued chance to just experience it, to notice, and to notice what kind of stirs in your heart and how God is all a part of that creative process and that response that we can bring to it. So yeah. Okay. That's so it. Go. Art and music. Have fun.